Hey everyone, and welcome to another Factorio Friday Facts, number 411, all about asteroids. I'm Exterminator, and thank you for joining me today. And we have a very long one today, pretty technical, so we are going to do a lot of summarization. Otherwise, this would be like an hour video of me reading super slowly and poorly. So we're just going to do a lot of summarization. It is pretty interesting, though. If you are into all the little details of this, definitely you can check it out. But we're just going to hop right into it here, so we're not going too long. And yeah, so this is by Arundel and Firgal. Welcome to Firgal's Factorio Friday Facts, quadruple F if you will. Over the last few months, we've seen asteroids a few times as background part of the other Friday Facts, but for all their understanding majesty, they were actually quite a complicated trick to pull off. Come with me as I take you on a 3,720 to 1 journey through the asteroid field. So, asteroids do concern me. We first started with placeholder asteroids that were just the same as any other sprite, a 2D pre-rendered image with lights and shadows as part of it. This worked, but it looked pretty weird that the asteroids were all oriented the same direction and only moved in the XY plane without rotating, which is true. They look pretty kind of just static, a little boring, but still not awful. But this is the early placeholder from V. So rotation is something that we were talking about going into the asteroid design process. So the actual asteroid design by Arundel. So basically, they came to the conclusion like they could do them where they all look the same, which is what the above thing is, but they decided it would be a lot better if they all looked basically completely different to differentiate them. So you have metallic, carbon, oxide, and yeah, you can kind of see. So basically, the metallic asteroid would have a metallic sheen, as you can see here. Carbonic, would have a very rough with more gravel-like surface imperfections, and oxide would be more shiny and glass-like. And then, as for the shapes, the metallic asteroids would be heavily deformed, concave shapes of pitted metal, and then the carbon ones would be convex masses of gravel and dust, and a bit more like merged spheres that had been blended together. And then the oxide ones would be hard faceted shapes with more straight lines and sharp angles, right? So that's kind of the general design of them. And then basically we go into some challenges. So 7,680 reasons to not rotate. Basically, for sprites to be able to need to rotate, such as the character of vehicles, we render a separate image for every rotation so the lighting matches up. While this approach would likely still work for this case, it would have been a performance nightmare, which I can imagine. So there's a different solution that was needed. And enter shaders. So the solution is shaders, basically. So left, right slopes are stored in the red channel, top right slopes are stored in the green channel. So you can kind of see how this looks with the shaders on them. And then we go down. In order to use the slope information to apply lighting, we need to do some clever math on it in a radar reference and the slope direction from a fixed point of line. So we continue down. So basically they combine that with clever math shaders and allows lighting to update with rotation. This approach enabled realistic lighting without needing thousands of frames, right? So this looks, black and white, this looks pretty good. And then you can see here, this is actually looking like definitely pretty solid. And this definitely isn't even the finished product here. So the lighting is very flat. That is one issue, of course. And then like the shininess and stuff, the ice doesn't come through, and this is because the shader isn't accounting for the shininess of materials yet, but we don't want a uniform increase in shininess, of course, so there's more work to be done. And then we come down here. I was just making sure that I knew where I was here. Like I said, it's a very long one. And then we go on to more realistic lighting, right? So creating realistic lighting. So basically to achieve it, they separated the color information from the lighting information and applied it dynamically. They added specular lighting to account for shininess and subsurface scattering, SSS, for materials like ice. Additionally, they introduced a secondary light source to reduce harsh shadows, making the asteroids look more natural, right? So it's what we just went through here. And this is starting to look very good, right? You can see there. So yeah, this one pretty flat. This one looking better. You can see kind of some shininess, and then no SSS or bounce light. And then you can see, I mean, this is pretty dang good looking if you ask me. They definitely do look 3D for not actually being 3D. Lighting updating with rotation, and yeah, they look really quite good, honestly. And we kind of see a better picture of them lower down on like how they kind of look in the actual like environment of the game with the space platform and stuff. Sorry, excuse me, big yawn crept up on me. So now we go to space dust shader, right? So to convey the movement of the space platform, basically they added a shader for space dust. Instead of using numerous particles, they created a single texture pack with several images. The texture packed with images. This texture was then animated to simulate motion with different specks moving at various speeds to create parallax effects. So yeah, this does give a very good visual of the space platform moving. You can see the space dust going by. And then one method to create this effect would have been spawning huge amounts of smoke and particle with some motion blur. However, particles take a lot of resources in large numbers. And then, yeah, this is basically what we just said, right? And you can kind of see things happening here. This is just more steps of that. All four images combined into one RGBA image. With a little mass on the texture coordinates, we make this image move, and by masking out the red, green, blue, and alpha channels, we can access the packed data we need, right? So simply planning all the textures, and then they say, you know, it's more or less moving all at the same rate. So we will make the specks and dust move at different rates by simply modifying the speed in the planar function, but we also don't want all specs to move at the same speed. It would look too much like a cohesive structure. This is where some of the masking textures come in. So they use image 1 to selectively, I don't know if this is image 1, maybe to selectively mask out individual particles at different times, which helps sell the illusion of many small things moving independently. This is done with a bit of math to graph a peak around a value. We then assign the target value to a time variable and loop it back around. So random selection. Currently, the particles are using the trail image 100% all the time, but they should be less blurred if they are moving slowly. Thanks to the same pre-planning, they can do this by cutting out pixels below a threshold. You can see here, this definitely, I mean, this looks way better than like that. So specks grow along the trails, the platform gains momentum, and then basically they repeat the process. We create a forced parallax effect, and then dust closer to the camera is larger and moves faster. Now what we need to do is combine all together and tie the intensity to the zoom level so it's not too distracting when building. And we're done. And now you can see what it looks like. The space dust, the asteroids, looks pretty good. Definitely glad they went with very different shapes for the asteroids, and some shininess and stuff kind of just helps differentiate them. And then, so they're done with the foreground element anyway, but there is, of course, even more to do. So, background asteroids. To add depths, basically, they used a technique called texture splatting to create infinite background asteroids from a single texture atlas. This method involves splitting the screen into a grid, which we will see down here, and placing one asteroid in each cell with random offsets. The shader handles rotation, motion, and scale for each asteroid, creating a dynamic and infinite asteroid field, right? So, yeah, this is basically what we just read. It splits them into grids here to create, you know, a dynamic field that can be infinite, essentially. And then you can see the grid of cells we generate as well as overlapping samples, colored red. And we give each asteroid a random speed of rotation, motion, and scale, and do the whole thing again at a different scale for parallax. When we do the same and use the same calculations for dynamic lighting as before, we have infinite fields of asteroids, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, we got to see basically the entire process behind creating the asteroids, which is neat. It is, you know, technical stuff is not for everyone. Generally not for me, but it is super cool to see the work that goes into creating these things, because it may seem simple and it's really not. Now, I have no complaints with this. I think it looks great. I saw quite a lot of people complaining about the fact that it's like highly unrealistic for the stars to be moving like in the background to like simulate motion, I guess. I guess that just means like the backdrop of stars like moving, but I don't really see that as too big of a deal. Like I know it's not realistic, but that ship sailed a very long time ago. Like it is not realistic either to be carrying rocket silos in your backpack, or to carry 500 train wagons in your backpack, or any of the numerous other things we can do in Factorio. Like the realism is kind of already gone. And it doesn't, I mean, it's a game, it doesn't need to be there. And like, it does help make it feel like there's movement. And again, I do agree, it's not realistic technically, but also I don't really know that you'll notice unless you're like super nitpicky. Like for me, if I'm on the platform trying to build stuff, trying to expand my platform, I'm truly not even going to notice what's happening in the background, like the space. Probably. So maybe I'll only notice when I'm actually just sitting there riding the platform doing nothing else. But yeah, so that's really just, I guess I just wanted to address that. I'm sure maybe some people would have mentioned in the comments, and you're free to, if you have an issue with it, that's not wrong. I just don't see it as an issue. But I would, as always, like to hear your thoughts down below. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next Friday Facts. One of these has got to be the plan reveal. Every single week for like the last 4 weeks now, I'm like, okay, this is it. This has got to be the plan one. So I'm hoping we are getting close to that. I really want some big banger of a reveal of some sort. We haven't had one in a long time. I mean, the beacon rework was pretty sweet, but it's kind of just like a revamp of something I already had. So I'm really looking forward to that. As always, leave your thoughts below if you did enjoy it. A like is appreciated. If you're new, welcome, and feel free to subscribe to keep up with all future content. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.